The Javelin anti-tank missile. The Javelin is a shoulder-fired missile system that was one of the first and most talked about weapons the U.S. sent to Ukraine. It was designed to destroy tanks and armored vehicles by hitting them from above, where the armor is thinnest. Ukraine received thousands of these before and after the Russian invasion began, and they became a symbol of the early resistance. Videos of Ukrainian soldiers using javelins against Russian tanks spread widely and showed just how effective the weapon was in the field. Stinger anti-aircraft missile. The Stinger is a portable air defense missile that soldiers can carry and fire from their shoulder. It was built to bring down low-flying aircraft, helicopters, and drones. The U.S. sent large numbers of Stingers to Ukraine to help counter Russian air power, particularly attack helicopters. The weapon has a long history, most famously used by Afghan fighters against Soviet helicopters in the 1980s. In Ukraine, it gave ground troops a way to defend themselves against threats from the sky without needing a full air defense system. HIMARS. The High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, known as HIMARS, was considered one of the most significant weapons the U.S. provided. It is a wheeled rocket launcher mounted on a truck capable of firing precision-guided rockets at targets up to 80 kilometers away. Ukraine used HIMARS to strike Russian ammunition depots, command posts, and supply lines deep behind the front lines. The accuracy of the system made it difficult for Russia to counter, and Ukrainian forces became highly skilled at moving the launchers quickly after firing to avoid retaliation. M777 howitzer. The M777 is a lightweight towed artillery piece that fires 155mm shells over long distances. The U.S. sent dozens of these to Ukraine, along with large quantities of ammunition. Artillery became the defining feature of the war, with both sides exchanging fire across long stretches of front line. The M777 gave Ukrainian forces a modern, accurate option that outperformed much of the older Soviet-era equipment they had been using. Training Ukrainian crews to operate it took only a matter of weeks. Bradley fighting vehicle. The Bradley is an armored vehicle that can carry infantry into battle while providing fire support with its onboard cannon and missile launcher. It sits somewhere between a tank and a troop transport, offering both protection and firepower. The U.S. committed hundreds of Bradleys to Ukraine as the war shifted into a more conventional ground conflict. They were used heavily during Ukrainian offensive operations and proved capable of going up against Russian armored vehicles in direct engagements. Abrams tank. The M1 Abrams is the main battle tank of the United States Army and one of the most powerful tanks in the world. Sending it to Ukraine was a significant political and military decision, one the U.S. initially resisted before eventually committing to it. The Abrams is heavy, fuel-hungry, and complex to maintain, which created real logistical challenges on the Ukrainian side. Despite those difficulties, its arrival on the battlefield represented a major escalation in Western military support and signaled a long-term commitment to Ukraine's defense. Patriot Air Defense System. The Patriot is a long-range surface-to-air missile system designed to intercept ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aircraft at high altitude. It is one of the most advanced air defense systems in the world. The U.S. decision to send Patriot batteries to Ukraine was considered a major turning point in the conflict. Ukraine used the system to shoot down Russian ballistic missiles that had previously been nearly impossible to intercept. Each Patriot battery requires a trained crew and significant infrastructure to operate, making it a serious and expensive commitment. ATACMS missiles. The Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, is a long-range ballistic missile fired from HIMARS launchers. The U.S. initially held back on sending these due to concerns about escalation, since they can strike targets up to 300 kilometers away. When they were finally approved, Ukraine used them to hit targets deep inside Russian-held territory, including airfields and logistics hubs. The decision to provide ATACMS was one of the most debated moves in the entire U.S. aid package, reflecting the ongoing tension between supporting Ukraine and avoiding direct confrontation with Russia. F-16 fighter jets. The F-16 is a fourth-generation multi-role fighter jet that has been the backbone of many Western air forces for decades. The U.S. approved the transfer of F-16s from allied countries to Ukraine after months of pressure from Kiev. The jets were not sent directly from American inventory, but were cleared for transfer from nations like the Netherlands and Denmark. Training Ukrainian pilots took considerable time, and the aircraft arrived later than many had hoped. Even so, the F-16 gave Ukraine a modern Western aircraft capable of air-to-air combat and precision strikes, replacing aging Soviet-era planes that had been worn down over years of fighting. Cluster munitions. Cluster munitions are weapons that release multiple smaller submunitions over a wide area. The U.S. decision to send these to Ukraine was controversial, as cluster munitions are banned by many countries due to the risk unexploded submunitions pose to civilians long after a conflict ends. The U.S. justified the transfer by pointing to Ukraine's critical shortage of conventional artillery ammunition. Ukrainian forces use them primarily in artillery shells to suppress Russian infantry positions. The move drew criticism from some allies, but was defended as a necessary measure given the scale and pace of the fight.